Hi everybody, welcome to, I believe it's May 30th, it's a Monday, so this is an unusual stream for us here at Adventure Corporation. It's going to be our monthly Adventure Talk segment. We'd like to just get on here, talk a little bit about D&D, what's going on in our lives, how D&D's, affecting it, changing it, what it's doing for us, what we love about D&D, what's going on with D&D, something new that we're bringing. What are you laughing at me about?
Not you.
At me?
No.
Oh, something that we're doing new is we're gonna be bringing on some guests to chat with us. We have Hivetyrant. He's one of our guests. He is one of our Twitch followers and longtime D&D player. All the way back from the beginning. Was it AD&D or First Edition? Way back in the day, he's been playing. So it'll be what? Sorry. First edition. So it'll be
the original Dungeons and Dragons.
He's OG. He's Gary Gygax. So it'll be fun to have him on, to have just a really good broad conversation about it. And like always too, if you're in chat and you want to ask some questions, throw some stuff in that maybe you have. The more we're looking for lots of engagement and fan involvement, because it brings it brings more to the conversation. So feel free to chime in, pop in a conversation. Make sure people are drinking water, and we'll have a good time.
I'm not people nor water, so don't include me.
Yeah, Runa could use more drinks. So
no, I couldn't.
How is the audio, Isaac? What are you thinking?
Hivetyrant's too quiet, so I'm gonna make him a source.
And put him on a thing.
I can also turn my mic up, I think.
I think it's more the inputs and stuff that we have that's causing the problem.
My
If you can turn your
Apple
mic up,
dying.
that would be great.
What?
Yeah, if you can make it louder, then.
Please charge. I don't care if you don't.
Alright, Hivetyrant, give me your best.
Give us a minute. We almost got everything working here.
6:02 a.m. We're just breaking shit all over the place.
Stage is now following.
Messages. Isaac Nash. What is D&D as an
Oh,
experience? Things from its interesting
exactly.
characters, words, lines.
Yeah, that's true.
I am pulling him from Discord, Yondu. I have him maxed, though.
Oh, okay.
What is D&D as an experience? What is D&D as an experience?
Oh, my input volume is maxed as well.
Okay.
So I can't turn my volume up there.
How do we all sound? Runa, do you want to give a little talk too?
La 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 la.
She's got the lalas in. I'm chatting over here. Isaac is doing.
Okay, so I've got an input source. Should... There we go. Now we should get Hivetyrant piped directly to us.
Okay. Maybe Hivetyrant, you want to talk a little bit?
What is this? Change freaks me out, says Shay. This is the best change ever.
So, Hivetyrant, you want to give us some talk?
I don't. I'm so.
I think I can't even hear him.
Is it gonna change if I do this?
Oh, his audio comes so weird.
If you can set Discord to be a separate audio source in Windows, then you can put that as a direct separate source.
I think this is just going to make it double, but let's try this.
I do not.
Okay. Hivetyrant, try talking.
Talking about nothing because
I don't know about the drawing. It is so blurry.
Yeah, we're just getting through the mic. I used to have this set up. I'm not going to be able to do anything about the blurry drawing.
I'll just end the stream. Just end it. I don't care about it. It's gonna be blurry.
And it does not want to let me capture Discord. Like, even stuff I've used before no longer has a Discord audio option. No, I don't want to do that.
Working out the kinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Sadly,
person.
I got off work. Like, I had 30 minutes to set this up.
That's what you get for having a life and a job.
Right?
Streamlabs is on.
Yeah.
What, Streamlabs is off?
This should, by rights, get him. Hivetyrant. Okay, Hivetyrant, talk for me.
Talking for you.
Okay, it is coming through this. Okay, now we got something.
Is it working for us too?
Yeah. Oh, Runa, you can't.
I
You
have
can't.
to.
You
It's
have to
so-
leave it up, or I have
it's
to
so
recut his
blurry.
whole video.
It's so blurry. I don't think you
broke
understand
it.
how. That's like, look at your worst work ever in your life. In your life. In a blurry.
I can't hear you until you get through to me.
It's so gross.
Yeah, just
Like-
put a screensaver on or something. I
Yeah,
just
just
think
don't-
he's got to stay the
Yeah.
same size.
Don't press watch stream.
I can even remove this.
Yeah. See? I'll just stay in call.
Let's do this. Okay. We should have Hivetyrant now. Runa doesn't have to look at what she doesn't want to look at.
It was so ugly. you ruined him with the cut.
Oh,
Like,
just
I was like, oh, maybe it'll be fine, and then I saw it on
It's
stream.
not the cutting, it's
It
Discord
was just
stream
zoomed
quality.
in. Yeah, and it was just zoomed in. And I
But
was
it,
like,
yeah,
"Ugh."
it's because Discord,
What?
unless we pay for Nitro, we get poor stream quality.
So what do we have going on with us? Like we have.
We've got us on,
Okay.
we've got Hivetyrant,
Okay.
and we should be good to go.
Okay. I can't hear Hivetyrant at all.
Because he's not talking.
I wasn't talking.
I still can't hear him.
Okay, now this is where I can make him louder, but then it's gonna loop.
Is he his own source now?
Like, if I put you up to 200 and try to put you behind the microphones. Okay, let's try from
Oh, I
here.
accidentally left.
Okay. Say
See where
something.
we end up.
Didn't mean to.
Something in something else?
Is he looping?
Why did it stop?
He is not looping. Okay, this is working.
Okay, we're gonna get this next time.
Officially working.
Next time we're gonna use a speaker.
Yeah.
And we'll get it better. So once again, thank you for coming, everybody. I don't know who's all in chat right now. If you want to give us a quick shout out for some people that are in chat watching, and
Are you calling him from Kwanstl?
Come on.
Yes, we are calling him from Kawasintel. That's the one. If you want to find me on Discord, that's where you find me. Apologies. I guess we are technically starting 8-9 minutes late with the extra setup, so
Yeah.
thank you for being patient with us. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm just going to cut it out, so congratulations on you picking that medium.
Alex was not killed off. He just didn't come.
Yeah, I wanted to bring Alex, but I had to come from the wrong direction to be able to pick him up, because he is too far away.
More incentive for him to get a license.
Yes!
Because it would make my life easier as a selfish blind man. So, kind of after that, I guess something I kind of want to throw it out there first. We had was like, what is D&D as an experience to us? Like, what how originally was it something that showed up for us as players, and then maybe how has that changed over time as people go to DMing and playing, and how it started off to what did it? Sorry, do you have something?
Continue. Talk to my iPad. 'cause
Okay. Okay. So that's kind of where I wanted to start off there. If you, Isaac, or you, or Hivetyrant have something to say about that. Are you still wearing headphones, Isaac?
No, I've got him down. I'm just trying to
Okay.
find my note about
Text
what we
message,
talked
you sent
about.
it to me.
I suppose I could go look at the text message. Should be right here, you'd think.
You would think.
I missed what you asked us about because I was trying to find that note and get us set up so we can see chat.
Okay, I just asked like what D&D as an experience and how it shows up for you before when you started to what it is now for you as a player / DM / whatever your capacity or whatever D&D is that you're doing with it. Some people, it might just be watching Critical Role. How has your experience changed? Like, whatever it may be.
Okay, yeah. Also, Canadian Confucius says, sadly, they're working. But have a great time. Thank you.
Thanks for popping.
Enjoy work. Good to see you.
Appreciate the lurk.
I know a big one for me was, like, the evolution and ongoing evolution of what rules are to me. Like, when I started out, my first real experience with D&D with actual rules was reading a whole rule book of a 3.5 variant and just trying to make the most busted character I could, knowing nothing about how D&D worked, and then coming from that space, and then starting to run D&D and starting to look at what are the parts of D&D that make my games fun, and the rules are more often than not a tool to give some certainty, and the less I've been stuck with them, the more fun I've been able to create. If instead of it being that's the way grappling works, so I can't make anything exciting about grappling because they didn't make good grappling rules, being okay, well, no, the situation they're in, what's exciting about the situation? Okay, what could I have them do that would best create the excitement that's inherent in the situation? If it's something like grappling, is it some big monster? What's exciting is you might get crushed underfoot at any moment, but if you can work together and get these ropes together, you have a chance of wrestling it down. What sort of checks would play into that? What sort of actions and ideas would help with that? That's been a big one for me with the evolution of D&D for me.
Okay, cool. Hivetyrant, do you have anything to say on that?
No, there's always been changes to the game. I mean, I started playing it when I was 13 years old, and that was many years ago before any of you were even born. And it was back in the day. There was more detail. There was more micromanaged rules as opposed to now. They've definitely streamlined it a lot, and I really do like 5e for that.
Do you think your experience playing D&D as someone who's come from first edition, or maybe back in the days of where it was more crunchier and more munchkin-y, and to now, has that maybe changed a little bit for you?
Yeah, quite a bit. Back in when D&D first was released, second edition was my favorite. And they had a lot of pre-made adventures and pre-packaged adventure kits, which made took a lot of the work out of DMing, and that's a role that's really been hard. A lot of I don't know about Isaac, but as a DM myself, it gets really frustrating because sometimes I just want to play, but that means letting somebody else DM, and that's really hard, especially when they don't know the background mechanics and rules of the way the DM does.
See, I've been really lucky. One of my early getting into D&Ds, I ended up running a weekly campaign for a board game cafe, and they were paying me to do it in board game dollars. So I have a fine collection of board games now. But I had a couple of players, almost all of them new, and we played like a 2-year campaign, and most of the way through that, one of them got really into DMing and started running his own games, and I was like, great, yeah, I'm in, and started playing with him. So I skipped that part. I've had great success encouraging my players to want to run, and then they have a certain level of knowledge that I skip that sort of difficult hump. But I run a lot, so then it's a matter of scheduling, because I run tabletop role-playing games 3 times a week, and was trying to play in one another time a week, and before that I had another game going as well. So running 4 games and playing in 1 game is, that's a week right there.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
That's a part-time job.
Yeah, it's a part-time job.
20 hours a week.
I have a lot of very good world building I've done in the middle of class when I should have been in class. But I've had good luck converting my players just by encouraging them to, a lot of my stuff I'm I'm thinking of adding this to my world. What do you think? And that tends to get the juices running in the right direction of people are like, oh man, what if I could just add things to my own world? But to talk to your, like, it can be hard. I suffer from it less. I really enjoy running, so I run 3 times a week, play every other week, which is fantastic for me. That's a good split for me.
Okay, cool.
I do, to comment on 2E, because I've read the 2nd edition rules. I'm a big fan of the older editions, and one of the things Dan mentioned was the like different position you might be in from having come from there. I think that's really fun because there was a couple of rules I stole from like 2nd edition and a system called Adventure Conqueror King, which is based off 1st edition, that I had to learn the hard way, the like problems with it and why 5e does things the way they do. And it was like, man, like if I had just come from this would have been a whole learning, like this would be knowledge I already had.
Yeah.
Instead I had to do it wrong once to figure it out.
It's so my experience for D&D, I started off in 3rd edition, playing at Nate. So I started off in the old D&D 3.5 SRD app with the every source book that God's ever written, and so once again reading source books, making characters, not even knowing really about it until I played, to now. I would say that, yeah, like I had a thing where you're building a character that sounds cool, but knowing nothing about D&D and how it would apply or play, or if it would make things fun or break it. To my experience now, I find that I'm building characters more and building my D&D experience more for what can I bring to the table and what can I bring to someone else's experience, and find a way to have my experience fulfilling while not taking away from somewhere else at the table. So it's because like in the end we're all at D&D to win at something. Win at being the best, win at having the most damage, win at being the best martyr, win at being the worst. Whatever you're good at, you're winning at something in D&D. And that's me saying winning is you're getting something out of D&D. So how can you get the thing out of D&D that you want to get while bringing the most to the table in other people's experience, right? So maybe I want to play this self-reproaching fireball edgy character who's just, from till level 10 is just going to be horrible or something like that, but how can I do it in a way that builds an experience is kind of what I've been trying to do. And then I haven't really DM'd a lot like you guys, but, getting into... I've designing world in my head for a long time, and then playing it and realizing like, wow, okay, how do the things in D&D show up when you're building a world, and how can that change? So that's been kind of cool for me.
We've had a lot of good conversations about perspective being on the player side versus the DM side. Hivetyrant, I'm not getting any looping. I haven't heard you talk yet, so there might be something, but I'm not getting any. I think it's just because we're pulling your Discord audio that you're getting some feedback on it.
Shay says, speak louder. I'm in a car wash.
Oh, sorry, Shay. Yeah. So back to you, Hivetyrant. Currently raining in Shay's car wash.
What are you guys your favorite characters over the years that you've played D&D?
Ooh, that's a tough
So
played as a PC or as a DM?
No. Played. Your favorite character you've played.
So I have a few. I'm going to give 2 because they're 2 very different. So I have my first ever D&D 3.5 character that I ever played, and he was a lawful stupid dwarven paladin named Balin Swiftaxe, who genocidally hated goblins, and he was extremely fun, but made me realize a lot of things that are not fun and in D&D. And like after that character, hated the alignment system, hated like a lot of things, and then also realized down the road, I look back at that character and I'm like, oh my god, how did the people at the table I was sitting with not say anything? So that was a lot of fun there. Another character that I love right now is Barry, and the one that I'm playing. I've never played a high-level wizard, and I get to experience things and in a good role-play group, and it's been one of the most fulfilling characters I've played in D&D right now. So if you guys want to see more of that, you can catch our episodes on YouTube. It goes back about 2 years. Feel free to hop on there.
Yeah. Also, if you want to look at last session versus our first session and see the quality jump, that is a really fun adventure to go on.
Embarrassing, but yeah.
Oh, and our link tree just came up, so that's where you can find it in the chat. What about you, Hivetyrant? Favorite character you've played?
My favorite ever was a character that I've got as a non-player character in my campaigns now. He's a halfling rogue named Milo Greenbottle. Okay. And the reason he's been my favorite character to play is because he is a neutral evil assassin, and I played him in a group of good characters, and they never realized just what an evil bastard that halfling was. He was very manipulative, and he got players to do shit that they probably never would have done. And then he was the last person suspected. There was a lot of notes going back and forth between me and the DM.
Oh, that's cool.
That makes me want to spoil so many things, but some of my players
criminal mastermind archetype was how I played him.
Cool.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, secrets are some of the most fun. When done well, I mean, it's a great area for really quick party contention, right? Like, we've all heard the horror stories of, oh, my character was secretly this, and then, or actually, usually the perspective here is like, oh, this person was secretly this, and then just like ruined a whole campaign with it, right? But when done well, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had at one particular point, I had one party member kind of suspect that Milo was behind the problems the party was experiencing.
Yeah.
And they brought it up, and I didn't have to say a word. The other party members were like, dude, you are way off. And I'm just sitting there inside, I'm going, yeah, no, you're on. You got it.
You've nailed it.
Yeah, but I didn't have to defend myself. They were busy doing it for me.
Nice. My favorite is definitely my current that I'm playing. In the bi-weekly one where I get to be a player is a drow, and I mixed in a bit of ranger so I could get the thing where you're invisible in darkness, and then I'm going straight assassin. And for me, the point of playing D&D is to get to explore other worldviews and perspectives and like live lives I would never get to experience and like I dig into that a lot. Like, what would it be like for this character? What sort of reactions would it generate? How would they look at the world? That's the juice for me. And so they're the classic, tragic backstory. You have to. It's D&D. They were kidnapped from the Underdark. They didn't have a very good life down there either. They were being trained as a Gloomstalker, taken from their mother at birth. But got kidnapped and raised by a spy master who taught them that they're an inferior race, and that all of the above ground races are superior, and that the best lot they can have in life is to just serve them as best they can. And then they've been assigned to watch over one of the party members whose father got in trouble with this organization. So they're kind of like collateral watching over, and they're supposed to keep them alive so they can be used as leverage. And so you've got this like grouchy drow who never shows her face. Nobody knows she's a drow. Who's following along this party reluctantly, like trying to talk them out of all their adventures. Because they're dangerous. Like, they wanted to go deal with some Ankeg underground or something, some underground creature, and she's like, are you ridiculous? We might find the Underdark. Do you know how dangerous the Underdark is? I will not do it. And then frequently they're like, well, we're going. And she's like, well, if you're going, I have to. Thanks for getting me killed. And this is what's following the party along. What's been really fun is they've kind of assumed that I'm playing her as this, like, hyper rude, like, hyper aggressive character. But everything comes from, like, trying to keep their charge alive. So we had another thing where we bumped into a hag who, like, found our party while we were sleeping, and she was a powerful witch. And my character took a shot at her before she knew this, because she was coming at the party. And then when she proved to be powerful, my character just went straight to an apology and trying to curry favor to keep the party alive and herself alive. And the party was like, no way, she can be polite?
That's funny. No, that's cool.
That's a lot of fun.
Do we have any questions in chat or anything, or no?
No questions.
Okay.
No. Also, Hivetyrant, I took a listen. There's no audio looping coming on your side either.
Okay, it's just me then.
Yeah.
So I guess another question I have for you guys would be, on that note of playing great characters as a player or a DM, how do you guys just create more table engagement? How do you get more people involved at the table so more people are having fun? And we've all been playing D&D a long time. I know there's people that come to the table that maybe don't know how to play D&D or are shy. What's a way to bring someone in and get them involved and enrolled without making them feel pushed or pushed to a point that's not good for them, kind of thing?
Hivetyrant, you're the guest. Take it away.
Well, for me as a DM, my cue that things need to, the pace needs to change is when I see people fidgeting, stacking dice. If I have a new player that we don't know each other, you got to get that through that honeymoon period and that shyness. So, my favorite is always to attack the party.
That'll do it.
Nothing brings a group of adventurers together quicker than a pack of zombies wandering into their campsite at night.
Yeah.
I tend, my go-to is usually actually more towards, like, take something the party cares about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know I've done this a few times where, things, where there's a long town adventure and they're buying a lot of things and you can see a couple of the party is, like, starting to doze off. And so I'll just have one of the party members will be like, yeah, just roll me a perception check. Your bag's gone. You can see the strap, like, cut and hanging from your shoulder, but you don't remember when the weight left you.
That's funny.
I have a little more tolerance for people, like, stacking dice and stuff, though, just because I have ADHD myself, and I pace while I play D&D. Like, when I'm not running the game, I need to be busy with something. It doesn't really matter how engaging it is.
I don't consider it a bad thing when somebody is stacking dice or fidgeting, but typically when I'm playing, and I'm definitely ADHD, but when I see people, when I'm stacking dice, that means that my hands are getting idle, and I need something to do. I need just something to stimulate me. So I take that as my cue. So
yeah.
Well, and like as a player, because I haven't DM'd a ton, I find when you can tell when someone's not having fun, or where they're not engaged, or they're on their phone, or there's lots of side table conversation going on, and it's not about the game or about things adjacent to the game. So that's usually when I would what I've been trying to do is finding a way to make their character that they're currently playing better, or to do things that it couldn't do before. So that's what I'm trying to do, and how I'm, like you take a lot of characters and all of a sudden you put a haste spell on them and that character becomes much more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Or you give someone, someone who has a problem, like, we have a warlock who has like 80 hit points. All of a sudden you give them something like Stone Skin, and that warlock can go and do stuff that it couldn't do before.
Feel called out at all, Runa?
Right? Sure, but like it's an example. Like
she's playing a sorcerer warlock in her other campaign at 79 hit points.
Yeah.
Everyone else is over 100.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things where it's like just take the points where someone's not having fun at it could be something as simple as like you do with Intellect Fortress. Somebody who's been crushed by Wisdom or Charisma saves all the time, or just gets feared to shit. All of a sudden they don't have to worry about fear. Great. Now that's fun for them. And now whenever fear comes up, they're not like, fuck, great. Here we go again with the fear. I'll just see you guys in 20 minutes after the fight. Oh, can't you? My character's a melee character. What should you want me to throw my hammer and then not get it? So I don't know. That's kind of how I've been. And then through roleplay. Mm-hmm. Just engaging people's stories and helping someone create something that they're proud, happy, and want to play and explore at the table. Right?
Yeah, totally. I think another, like, one that gets overlooked, I have actively discouraged sometimes, especially with new players, I'll have somebody new who's a little shy, and they will describe what their character does and says instead of saying it, and I've had some players at my table be like, no, like, say it, like, you do it like this. And I'm like, no, like, just let them, whatever level you want to engage with D&D at is super, super fine by me, right? If you're new to the game, like, and this is on the topic of making people comfortable, like, if you're new to the game and you want to be like, yeah, I go ask the guard for directions, and that's your level of comfort, I'm down for that. Or even if it's like, I'm going to try to get directions, and that's where your comfort is, like, we'll just meet you wherever, and in my experience, that tends to expand anyways, so it's never a long-term problem.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Okay, wait. We made a little list of stuff we could talk about, and I'm going to skip to one that I'm personally interested.
Okay.
Because Hivetyrant, you mentioned you play in Forgotten Realms with some personal twists. I want to hear about some of your twists on the Forgotten Realms setting.
Excuse me. It's not so much personal twists as I've got the memory of a goldfish. And so I don't remember how the Faerun map is actually laid out. Mm-hmm. So I kind of make it up as I go along, and the great Anarok Desert tends to move.
Okay.
Based on where I remember it was. So, I use the geography, like the names of the cities, the famous cities and the towns, but beyond that, like the campaign setting is the Forgotten Realms setting, with some of the geopolitical stuff that goes on there. Mm-hmm. But I have to recreate everything based on what I remember from box sets and books from previous editions. Because 5e, the Wizards of the Coast, made it so that if you want the description of that tree over there versus that park bench, you got to buy another book, which I did not like at all.
Yeah.
So maybe just so that I can make sure that I'm not like smashing two things. So what was it? Not Faerun.
Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Realms has like Sword Coast,
Waterdeep.
Yep.
Waterdeep. It has
Yes.
It has Myth Draenor, right?
Myth Draenor, yeah, the ruins of Myth
okay.
Draenor,
So
one of my favorite places.
Elminster's Forgotten Realms as well.
Correct.
Okay, because I've read the Elminster series and I've read the Drow, the Driss series, and I've read a bunch of other ones. So I just sometimes you're not 100% where they come apart, because like there's so much stuff that like Myth Draenor itself has a whole crazy, and then there's like do you have the spine in your world, like the
Dragonspine Mountains? Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, that's awesome. I would love to play in a Forgotten Realms campaign sometime, just because the lore of it's so, like, how many years
Oh yeah.
has it been around?
Well, the one thing that I absolutely am rigid about bringing into my campaign are the pantheon of the gods, and I just think that they're so rich and well thought out, and it appeals to the way I would structure a pantheon if I were like an overlord of the gods.
Yeah. I love Groomsh. I love Morden. I love like the gods are very well done.
That's actually an
My
interesting
favorite is
Mistra, like.
Sorry, go ahead, Hivetyrant.
Oh, it's just that my favorite god is Cyric, the insane, formerly the god of the dead, was human. If you've read the Avatar trilogy, you know that whole legacy and how he became a god.
Yeah.
And he's awesome. I've loved him in every piece of literature I've read.
See, I really like Mistra, just because I love the concept of the weave.
The weave,
And,
yes.
And how it basically reset itself so that they could deal with things like, 10th level magic and crazy stuff like that. But one of the scariest gods, in my opinion, was Shar. Shar is terrifying.
The darkness god?
Yeah, the god of shadows.
Yeah.
Pretty terrifying.
Fair enough.
It's actually an interesting area.
I think Talos.
Yeah, that too.
It's an interesting area of world building for me, because one of my endeavors in building my own world has been to make something that is both interesting and feels alive, with room for it to not already be written. Like, my favorite parts about my world is the stuff my players add to it. That's my favorite part about ending a campaign, is when we get to detail out how they impact the world outside of just what happened during the campaign. And I have intentionally left my my gods a little sparse. Like if I was building my pantheon just as a finished set, I would add like 10, 20 more gods to it. I've got like 7 or 10 at the moment. And in my world, it's possible to become a god, and I'm very interested in how player choices will... like, I had one campaign where an NPC got established as a god, as a major turning point in the campaign that's in there now. I'm interested to see PCs become gods. Like, I've intentionally left that area less interesting in the hopes to make it something that comes alive from the collaboration of, like, players impacting my world.
You've got a shit stain bot in your stream selling followers.
Oh, yeah! Thanks for telling me. I get to ban somebody. Usually I have Alex to do this for me. First time Shatter, I have a present for you.
What are they doing?
Oh, they're trying to help us become famous.
Follows.
Oh, one of
Sell
those.
us followers. Ban.
Yeah, one of those. Oh, we have $4 million of uncut diamonds that we need you to get across the border from Nigeria.
Does it automatically delete their message when I ban them?
Yes.
Perfect. So smart. Okay, I'm going to move you back so we don't double. Oh! I'm getting a call. Hello.
You got something.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell her to text me. Okay. But yeah, so as I was saying, that's one of the areas I would love to add more gods. The Pantheon building is so much fun, and I've kept there's a couple of gods I really just want to slap in there so bad. And I'm like, nope, leave space. Leave space.
Something I
Well,
like.
it's funny. It's really funny. One of the things that I took away from one of the novels I read, I actually worked it into my last campaign. I had to shut the campaign down, unfortunately, because school was getting too much, taking too much of my time, and I couldn't build a good adventure in time for the D&D game.
Yeah.
But one of my players, he had read in something else, some website, I think, about a great hunt. And this great hunt was led by a god. And so he wanted to incorporate that into my game world. And I'm like, that's totally cool. But that name of that god doesn't exist. That god doesn't exist in my realm. But one of the things that I had taken away, it was a movie, or not movie, the book, The Prince of Lies. It was the post-Avatar trilogy sequel. Okay. And Cyric was answering the prayers of other people, or people that were worshiping gods that he had killed, but nobody knew he had killed them, and he was answering their prayers. So I incorporated that mechanic into my campaign, and my player, he was praying to his god, but the god that was answering those prayers was Malar, the Beast Lord.
Okay.
In the guise of this god that this character was calling upon. And so he had no idea he was actually worshiping Malar, the Beast Lord.
I love it.
So one of the things, because I'm building my own world as well, and what helps of building characters too, is I like to see change and progression in the world brought on by like what character said. So I built my world up to a point where I have a year that my thing has started, where my first campaign is happening, kind of thing, and all of my stuff after that will happen like adjacent to those times, so that they can see if there was something, great. If nothing, then whatever. But things can change based on players. So if you have repeat people, there might be NPCs that show up again. There might be changes in the world's craters, war, battle fields and stuff like that. That they're like, oh shit, I remember this.
Yeah, well, you went to Camerdell just the other day, right?
Yeah.
And the whole, the fact that the city has a dam built all the way around it so it can be partially in the ocean is because in one of my campaigns that went to level 20, the group failed to stop the Lord of Hell from freeing his avatar that was trapped in ice in, the ice flows way down in the south. And so when all the ice the gods had put there to trap it melted, the water level around the world rose, and Camerdell was a desert coast city.
I just think you end up with a much cooler world and a much more developed and lived-in world when you have 10, 20, 30, 40 different minds adding and building, and you know what I mean?
Well, and that one was even my idea, but the fact that Camerdell is damned is because they built that. Camerdell was just gone.
It
And
could
it
have
had
ended
moved
up
on.
gone. You would have had a different city.
And they were like, wait, we know the people in Atlantis, and they have techniques to keep water out, and we've got some friends there. Like, we can, and we have magic. Like, we can build, and they spent months, like, rescuing Camradel from the waves.
That's hilarious.
It makes for the most fun world building, in my opinion.
So here's a question that I have that is, okay, let's say you have new players coming in, and as a DM, you've seen some things, you have some things that just work, some things that don't work, and you see a player coming in with like an idea or like a concept of D&D, and you're just like, this is going to either lead down to the path of unhappy characters at the table, or them having unfilled expectations because that just doesn't happen or doesn't work. How do you deal with that type of thing, and how do you like help kind of mold newer D&D characters, like people, to work at a table better? Like, how do you guys deal with that?
Take it away, Isaac.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I have dealt with this a few times. I think initially I was very, like, kids club about it. Like, I just, like, whatever I do, don't want to spoil what your idea of D&D was. And I did have a couple moments where somebody would try something, and I would just, like, it would be so not a fit for my world. My usual thing is just, like, my world tends to have consequences. So, you know, if you go and cast a fireball and slaughter 13 children in the square just because you're a wizard and you can teleport away, like, you have a bounty and, you know, you're hunted now, and that's going to make it really hard to adventure. Like, I tend to have real consequences, and players learn real fast. You know, I've had players get arrested, whipped, and fined. Like, it just... my world treats itself like a world. The people are not just going to be murdered willy-nilly, and you get away because you're a player character. But like I said, I've let it go too far before, where I had to be like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, this is the end of the campaign. Your character will be hunted for the rest of his life. Not a great experience. I've been much less kids club with people, and kind of on the lookout for it when especially newer players tend to just want to try to break it. I was like that when I started. I find that's a common theme. They'll start describing, you know, the way their character is, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, murderous and trying to kill the party, and they're gonna wait for the right moment, and just to be like, hey, like, I don't want to tell you how to play, but the game is about everybody having fun, and there's some things that aren't going to work for that for me. Like, I just won't have fun running it. I think that these are some potential issues we can have with the party if we're doing that. Like, if we do that wrong, it's going to feel like a betrayal, and it's going to be a real fight. I'm fine with doing fun stuff like that, but you need to know you're going into hot water, and you need to treat it thusly. So the only way we can do that is if you're willing to be really great about it. Like if you're willing to make this thing that you're doing about everybody having fun, we can go there, and I'll work together with that. But if that's not where you're at with it, we're just going to get ourselves in hot water, and let's not pretend we're not.
No, I agree with that. So some of the things I've ran into, and not so much since 5th edition, because it's not like the alignment system isn't a thing anymore. When I've played in games that have used the alignment system, I found people get too hung up on, I'm lawful neutral, I'm chaotic good, and a lot of times it goes to, I'm something evil, and what I've found is that when there's that word there,
yeah,
it completely derails everything that they had planned about their character, and they focus on that word.
Yep. And
I've never had somebody who's played an evil character that has worked out in a party. It's just like you're in one evil character in a party of 6 good people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's just like,
well,
like you're playing your halfling. I'm sure, and it worked out. I'm not trying to like discredit that. I'm just saying is like evil.
The word has a lot of context to it. Like, people,
yeah, evil is not synonymous with homicidal, insane sociopath.
No, for sure. So you could have an evil tone to your character, and you could be quote unquote whatever that is. Like, but I'm like, I just find
Trey, indeed.
if you don't put a word to it, And then newer characters, I'm like, nope, we don't do that. Then they don't put a word to it. Then they're like, well, my character's kind of selfish. My character might not always do the best thing for the group. I'm like, great. In my head, I'm like, you might be a little evil, but I'm not going to say that because then it opens the gate for party kills and steal the loot.
The label on it.
Yondu said, I can't wait to guest star and pull a fucking Akron stealing the hand level atrocity and then promptly leave the game.
Yeah, that's
Alex, cough, Trey.
No, but talking about the good and evil, for me, evil is not like bad or good. It's how much self matters. Like how selfless are you, or how self-centered are you?
Yeah, and the alignment system. Your character's not a compass. You don't sit in one quadrant and then all of a sudden you're in a different one. Actions are totally based off of that. And your character is a framework that has certain things that cause it to be the way that it is.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, that was always something that bothered me with the alignment system back in 2nd edition and earlier, was that I had one player that would refuse to put an alignment on his character sheet, and he said, I don't belong in any of the 9 boxes. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate that, but there are certain mechanics that require your alignment to be good or not evil.
Yes.
And we need that. Beyond that, I never, even back in first edition D&D, I never forced players to behave a certain way based on their alignment, right? And I disliked, and I still dislike, how somebody justifies behavior by saying, well, that's my alignment. I don't care. What I care about is this in character for your character?
Yeah.
That's what matters. The alignment has always been, for me, a guideline. If you're unsure how your character would react in a situation, default to the alignment. How would this person react?
Yeah,
Beyond that,
for sure.
It's not a cage to hold you to a certain level of behavior. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, and to quote on the mechanics, and I'm glad they fixed this because it was something that made the game, in my opinion, less accessible when certain spells and certain classes and prestige classes and stuff were locked to an alignment. It made it where you're like, if you ever wanted to explore something like that, like inflict wounds or different spells, you had to have an evil or necromancy or summon demons. Like that, to me, I'm glad they fixed, and I'm glad they removed that from the mechanic, because once again, it was another thing that pushed someone into a corner where they're like, great, I want to summon demons, I have to be evil. Like, and I'm like, no, that's so dumb.
Yeah. Okay, I have something I want to ask, especially because Ruin is here, and I think you'll have good. So one of the things I wanted to ask about was how NPCs affect player characters. I'm interested to get Hivetyrant's perspective because he's another DM watching it. But I've been noticing, like Barian was an example, with the party having their perspective as, people playing a character and them being adventurers and thieves, and then they went to murder somebody in front of one of his students, and his student spoke up against it as like a person naturalized to this world, being like, whoa, you're not the law. And Runa, you've had Big Red be a major part of your character in-game, so any thoughts or ideas on NPCs affecting, like, player character directions?
I'm a creative person, but sometimes I'm just lost. So, like, I'll get into a situation, and it's like, what do you do in this? I'm like, I'm not actually that character, so I don't know what they're actually thinking. I can come up with it. But if I want to be them, I don't know what they'd actually say. Yeah. So I get lost a lot sometimes. And then NPCs, like, butt in. And, God, it makes life so much easier. Like, it feels like a conversation compared to me talking at someone and then that one person like, yeah, cool, you got this.
Yeah, like a situation instead of a decision moment.
They have opinion on it, and then you actually get to be like, yeah, because we know nothing about the world Like, we know some stuff about the world, but money, paying people, like, some things I just don't know. And the only way I've learned them is through the NPCs. Okay. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm gonna pay you this. And she's like, that's not a good wage. And I'm like, I didn't know that. I don't know anything about the way you pay people.
That is interesting how the NPCs kind of teach your characters how is normal in the world, I think is kind of what I'm getting to.
Because, like, we're, like, super powerful, so we're definitely like, we definitely are like, yeah, we can do what we want. LOL, you literally can't stop us. And, like, it feels like you're on a higher power level. But when the NPCs, like, step in and they're like, oh, no, don't do that. And, like, it's like, oh, wow, it's crazy that we're in a world. And we're not just, we didn't make this.
Yeah.
And people don't always have to listen to us.
Yeah.
And it, like, it's definitely, like, brings you down a little bit compared to the, hi, I'm a 17th level wizard, bow before me.
Yeah.
You know?
What are your comments on NPCs, Hivetyrant?
I use NPCs as sources of information and sort of a dam against, cataclysmic stupid choices that players can sometimes make. For example, if their solution to, wiping out the goblin nest is to try and invent napalm, I discourage that through the use of NPCs, as opposed to, the godly voice from the sky saying that's a horrible idea. But one of the things I've always hated when other DMs do it in games that I've played is, and I refuse to do it, is I refuse to bring an NPC character into the party that is as strong or stronger than the party to help them. Drives me up the wall, because then it's the DM role-playing against himself or herself, which drives me batty.
I had a DM we used to play with way back when I was younger, who Sephiroth was always the villain and was always super god power, and there was an NPC named Waddle who was a penguin with a lightsaber and had like a 32 in every stat and was just yes, I agree with you. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I use NPCs as support characters, again, sources of information. Never as the front stage character. Never. Because my son was DMing a campaign, and he had a plethora. Like, each character in the party, each player at the table had an NPC henchman, and those henchmen were stronger than we were. And I'm like, well, there's really no point in me being at the table. I mean, I'll send my minion in to do all the fighting. I'll stand back and eat an apple and collect the XP.
Yeah.
So
I love NPCs as a player and a DM. I think that NPCs are the way that your party and your players interact with the world.
Yes.
They're
There's a background noise coming out of somebody. It's not even a loop. It's like something else playing. I'm not sure what, but it's not loud enough to be a problem. We're just trying to find it.
NPCs are the gateways and the doorways and the storybooks to your world, and I like them because what it does when you have the players and you don't give them NPCs to roleplay with, they roleplay with themselves, and the roleplaying's awkward when it's just the player characters roleplaying all the time. So you need to put NPCs into the world to interact with and give them different story hooks and plot hooks and things to move them. And it's cool because the NPCs are like limited, omniscient plot points and people in the world. The DM has the knowledge and he's playing the character, but he knows the character knows this much and they're a thing. It also gives the characters, like the people playing the game, something to love, right? And it gives them relationships that you can set up beyond the ones they develop together as characters. So like you're saying, when they make that bad decision, like, oh shit, we're going to have to fireball the city, and then you're like, but Sarah and Clarice live here. All of a sudden now we can't just shut that one gate and let them, the undead, kill that entire section of the city, because Sarah and Clarice are over there, and fuck. Like, it makes the decisions harder, and it makes it, all of a sudden now you're a level 17 wizard who's super powerful, but you have to protect that level 1 peasant that you've made a relationship with. So, fuck these guys, I walk away from the city because this isn't my war. But now I kind of have to pick their side a little bit because there's people I care here about them, that are outside of just the other power players and the things they do.
Yeah, Runa?
I feel that because recently we've had talks about having to go to the Feywild to get rid of a curse.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, my kid and my husband are coming.
right.
Like, it's, I'm not going or we're all going. And there's no in between.
Yeah. Dan, when he proposed to his girlfriend, when Varian proposed to his girlfriend, she said no. It broke my heart. Like, I was actually hearing violins. I was sad. And I was like, man, that is damn good.
Yeah, that
was awesome.
That was a tough one.
Yeah.
But see, and you would never. There's so many things I can think of that have happened that you'd never have without NPCs. So I'm like, if you're listening to this and you're a DM or a player, encourage NPCs in your world and give ideas to the DM. As a DM, just make it happen. Put them in your world because they're the other pieces of the game that make the game work.
The NPCs is one of the things I pride myself on, and like with running a stream, one of the things I have on my mind is kind of like what's our brand, what sets our stream apart, and I think one of the things I'm building into it is that our world really feels alive. And that the relationships in it matter between the players and between the players and the non-player characters. That is a big focus of mine. And it came as an epiphany at one point where I was like,
Hey, yo.
What makes D&D interesting when you care? And my best tool to make people care is to have worlds and people in the world, like places and people that they care about. And I've had many moments where I was just sitting, like, trying to grasp, like, how do I actually put this in? How do I make characters that people care about? And my answer was really just, like, be the characters. Like, I noticed a couple of times people were going to a city, and they're like, yeah, I want to get some potions, and I kind of wanted to get to the next combat. And so I was like, yeah, potions, greater healing, 250 gold, you find a potion shop, and I was like, wait. Like, right here is an opportunity for them to meet somebody, and this is their home city, this is prime territory for them to get a long-term relationship. Like, let's actually slow down and play this character. Let's have this character talk to them, and maybe be a little moody, right? Like, and maybe hint at something else going on in their life that draws interest that they can come back to or deal with right away if they want. But I've had real moments where I'm like, oh man, how do I make characters important? And then I'm sitting like, oh, play the characters. Yeah, that makes sense.
On that note, and this is something else that I've kind of realized, and I feel, give your player characters earlier access to limited teleport. Because it allows them to have a home base or a central theme where they can build those relationships and have those people, but enough movement so that they can still explore the world and maybe choose a new place if they want to do something. It's so, like, if you don't want to have to constantly rebuild NPCs every time they decide they want to go somewhere else, or like, it just, I feel like it makes
the home base really important.
It makes your job as a DM not as difficult, and it makes your players, in my opinion, as a player and as someone who's like been working on that, I feel like it only brings good things to your game, and it's not going to break your game. If you give them some scrolls of teleportation circle, they can only do it when you have scrolls, and they can only go to places that you give them circles. So it's not going to break your game. Like,
yeah, that was actually, I'll pick Hivetyrant's brain on this. I found myself partway through a campaign, and I realized that all the adventures they were going on had them like away from home for months at a time. And this was just when I was realizing I wanted NPCs to be important. And I was like, man, like, I don't want you to see the NPC twice a year game time. And I started realizing how important to, like, make somewhere home baseable, or to introduce the party to enough places that they choose, and then to latch on to whatever their choice is and make that place matter. And I was like, man, I need to scale back how far-flung these adventures are. Because I need a location where they can start building some relationships and start, like, building some sort of emotional capital in the area they're in. So what are your thoughts on the party, like, choosing a home city or a home base, or the importance of it?
Oh, I absolutely agree with it. One of the things that they actually, I can't remember which edition of D&D it was, but there was an edition where they had strongholds and, the development of characters becoming, land and title and, developing as more than just a solo adventure. So they're responsible for more than just themselves. And I love when players want to build a base of operation where they want to acquire real estate or a stronghold of some kind.
Yeah.
But I found more often than not, and this kind of ties into a thought that I was kind of rattling around in my head, and that is that the danger of the teleportation is bringing too much of a video game style feel to my tabletop game, and I'm hesitant about that. But with the stronghold, and because of that, I think just with gaming in general and the mentality of players and young folks that are becoming into D&D, they have an expectation of a video game style game to D&D.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, they're afraid to put down roots, or they don't even know that they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's an aspiration that you kind of have to plant in their mind.
Yeah.
This is something that you can do,
Yeah.
but I don't want to force them to do it.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they feel chained down, they don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
It's giving.
So it's a tough balance.
Yeah, it's. I find it's the difference between like making sure that they understand the options there, and like with teleportation and stuff, is having those NPCs and having the people in the world that are the gatekeepers of that stuff, so that it doesn't become a
free for all,
a convenience thing.
Yeah.
It becomes an option that when you use it takes away other things because it cost you something, right? Like
Right.
it. Yeah, no, I agree.
For example, if you have a character that gets a stronghold or builds a stronghold, right?
Yeah.
They may treat that stronghold like the stash in Diablo. Okay,
Yeah.
for example,
Yeah.
they just dump all their crap there. They've got a big treasure room. They might even go to the length of drawing out a floor plan or a map of their castle or their keep, and then they say, "This is my treasure room." And when you look at it, there's no door, there's no locks on the building, there's no guard. Like they assume that nothing will ever happen. That's just there. That exists there, like the stash in Diablo, where nobody can get into it but them. And then they get upset when you send in a thief and makes off with one of their treasures that literally walks in and walks out with as much as they can carry.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it really, really bothers me when I'm a player in a game and the DM gives you something just so that you have something to take away.
Yes.
That drives me insane.
Yes. It's a very dangerous territory.
Right.
And
So,
I think,
I mean, if you build a stronghold and there isn't even a door on your loot room, I'm going to steal your stuff.
And you know what? And maybe there's people that can. Maybe there's somebody who is that person that's cautious and they hired soldiers to defend their keep. Yeah. Maybe there's that guy who's just so gregarious that everybody is loves him in town. Everybody knows he's good. They know his doors aren't locked, but the town's out to protect him. So he doesn't hire guards, but the town's keep
But
people away.
That would take some work.
Oh,
right?
for sure, right? But it's
but that presents opportunities for adventure, right? Because
options, right?
the adventurers come home with their latest, wagon load of gold and other crap, and as they're coming through town heading up to their castle or their keep, they discovered that the blacksmith is dead, and they're like, "What happened?" Well, he caught somebody in town trying to sell some jewelry that we know was in your home.
Yeah.
And he tried to stop them, and they killed him for it. Yeah. Well, now you have an adventure, right?
Oh,
that's
cool.
That's awesome,
that,
right?
yeah.
That's gold to me as a DM.
I have a final note on that, and then we'll close.
And I have one more question after that.
We don't have time for another question. It's 7:00. I do have places to be, I'm afraid. But I have a final note on this, as it's an area that's been a big change in my D&D. I mentioned earlier Adventure Conqueror King. Which builds D&D starting from a functioning economy and then up from there. And one of the big things I steal from that is they have all sorts of rules for building strongholds and taxing them and having senates. Runa has a gladiator ring, and all of that, her school and how it's managed all comes from those rules. Alex's character runs a criminal syndicate. All of the rules for that come from there. Daniel's wizard tower and all of the stuff he can do that, and his apprentice and everything, all the rules come from there. And that's been one of the things I mentioned with the learning what people who played earlier editions would have already known, like making the same mistakes that I'm sure my predecessors made before me. A lot has been in that area of putting that in, where you mentioned, like, you know, people have this sort of video game mindset. And I've had the best success just, like, sprinkling it in. For instance, having a Wizard Tower gives you access to the permanency spell, which I put in the game. And because it's a great taste of what spellcrafting's like. And the best way to do that is to sprinkle in wizards with permanency things, and that gets my players thinking, like, ooh, like, I could have a Wizard Tower. And then the first interaction is always video gamey, but then we roll for those apprentices, and they're like, oh, you name them, whatever, and then they start having a personality, and suddenly it becomes a tower, has been my experience. The other campaign, they have their keep that they've put a lot of investment and stuff into, and the guards there, like, stick their nose into the runnings of it. Like, they have the captain of the guard has stuff to say about how the settlement gets run, and it's made it a keep instead of, like, the stash in Diablo.
It became an actual town, like an actual thing on the map in the game, which was cool.
It came to life.
Yes,
Exactly.
and NPCs. The power of NPCs.
Yeah. Okay, we're a little past 7. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. As always, you can find us on Twitch, 6 to 10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time every Wednesday. Episodes show up on YouTube. We're on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. That's the other big one I'm missing. Yeah. Hivetyrant, thank you very much for joining us. You want to shout out your stream quick, or anything else you want to say?
No, just thanks for having me, guys.
No
it was
problem.
awesome.
Appreciate it. And we'll be doing this again in June.
Yes,
Sweet.
yeah. We'll do another one of these in June.
Adventure Talks, and we'll see you guys this Wednesday. Actually, Tuesday,
I'll
because
see
of
you
my
guys
game
on
stream.
Wednesday as well.
Yeah. And then Yondu said he's out of deliveries, not talking much, but loving this podcast style format. Please keep doing this. Yeah, we will. We're having fun.
Awesome.
Okay, I insist you shout out your stream at least once.
I'm not currently streaming because of school.
Oh, that makes it difficult. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when he does,
I
we'll
uninsist. I uninsist of you. Well, thank you for joining us, and we hope to keep seeing you and all of the formalities you end the stream with. We love you, dude.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I will be resuming my stream probably next semester, but I've just got too many courses this semester to have a reliable schedule.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, folks, that's us signing off.
Okay. See you later, guys.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
good night.
Bye.
Love y'all.